Thank you for joining me on the journey. This is Completed Christianity. So welcome again. Another episode of Being Complete. And this time we have the conclusion of this Hebrew Roots Exposed documentary, Exposed series. So the exposing of the exposing. The group that tried this, Pastor Anderson, his group, nice try, proverbially no cigar. It did not work because unbeknownst to them, I hope it's unbeknownst to them, that they were striving against the Word, striving against the Messiah. In this series, we prove that. And we're going to get into that here in a minute. Once again, after we go through our Mark of the Beast series, I think it should be just a few videos. We go through that, then we'll settle into our schedule here. And once again, this schedule: first day, sun worship; second day and third day, misunderstood verses; fourth day, and these are the days of the week, fourth day, paganized words; fifth day, what they say. They can be like political leaders, world leaders, Christian leaders, Hebrew Roots leaders, even commenters on the things that they say that might not be all that accurate or might just be interesting. So we will explore that. And sixth day, we'll get into scriptural prophecy. And on Shabbat, we will be doing validation of the law commentaries from most likely the New Testament, letters of Paul, Galatians, Romans. And we'll be going through there basically on a verse-by-verse case and pulling out what's there and showing that the apostles' intent, Paul's intent, Peter's intent, that it was never to diminish the law that the Father had set in place in any way. In any way. And so now, let's get into a little bit of a discussion about this documentary that we've been going through here, surely now for weeks. This particular group of Steven Anderson's, it's the new independent fundamentalist Baptist, and this is like his own denomination. He felt that the independent fundamentalist Baptist church, that it was not conservative enough and that they were moving more liberal, and I'm sure that's probably the truth. And so he started this, and based on hard preaching, and basically I would say it's browbeating. It goes beyond preaching the gospel. And when you look at another documentary they've done, you can see the pride and you can see the arrogance behind the, oh, well, we're hard preachers and we strive to be offensive to other people. And you can tell that they have great satisfaction in just blatantly being offensive to other people just for the case of being offensive. And you can see it's an underlying pride issue. Doesn't necessarily mean to really get into that, but that's who this group is. And then the guys in the video are like part of his core pastor's ministry team. I believe they all pastor like different churches. But in this documentary series, as we discussed throughout, they take this to the absurdity and they look at these fringe Hebrew Roots groups that are not mainstream Hebrew Roots doctrine. They're out there twisting and tweaking things here and there and making up their own stuff and bringing in really devilish and demonic type of literature with things like the Zohar and the Nag Hammadi text and such like that. They profile those people as being mainstream. And there's like a snippet comment in there from Matt Powell where he kind of brushes past and says, yeah, they're not all like that. But their intent with this is to be disingenuous and say that this is what everybody in Hebrew Roots believes. And it's really disgusting, and you just can't get past that. They continue to build on the enemy's faulty foundation, which, if you don't know what I mean by that, go back to my first 5 videos that are on this channel, 5-part series, and talk about the faulty foundation that the enemy has given would-be believers to build upon. And so when you look at what the enemy has done and how he's twisted things to get us away from the word and away from the scripture, even though we believe that what we have is 100% the word and 100% the scripture, we don't see the little nuance things that get left out and get tweaked a little bit. And so we have to look at the whole of everything and bring it all together as one, and not just part it out into our little individual niche doctrines. This whole video, it's a farce. It's so bad. Like I said in the beginning, it just makes me want to pull my hair out still, even to this time. And especially when you take the words of the Apostle Paul and you try and twist those words, like it says in 2 Peter, you try and twist those words into lawlessness. Try and twist those words into saying that the law doesn't matter, that the law is done away with, that we don't keep the law anymore. This is twisting the scripture. It's twisting Paul. And in the scripture, Paul defends himself against these accusations in the book of Acts, in the scripture. He defends himself against accusations of teaching contrary to the law 3 different times. And with that, we should never have another law abolishing discussion ever. It should be finished and it should be over. But people want to cling to their selfish gain and their selfish motives. They don't want to take up their cross and follow Messiah. They want to take up their twig and follow after their own selfish desires. And it's against the Father. It's against his word, and it's against his Messiah. And that is just flat, plain, all there is to it. This whole series, they attack the Sabbath keeping really hard. But the Father says in Leviticus 23, when he talks about all the Moedim, the appointed times, they're just that. They're appointed times. One of them is the weekly Sabbath. And he says, these are my appointed times. These are my appointments. These are my appointments to meet with you. And so every week on the Sabbath, on the Shabbat, the Father has an appointment to meet with you. Are you there? Do you stand him up? Do you count his way, his Shabbat, his day of rest? Do you count it as a vain thing? In this documentary, Pastor Anderson, he says that in the New Testament, we don't keep the Sabbath anymore, that we just rest in Jesus. Well, that's a false doctrine, and in this series, we proved it, that it's a false doctrine. And even going back to the days of the Protestant Reformers, even going back to Charles Haddon Spurgeon, they believed in keeping the Sabbath. They were still under the Roman deception that the Sabbath was somehow changed to Sunday. They were still under that deception, and they likely didn't ferret that out because of their own anti-Semitisms, because they didn't want to be keeping the Jewish Sabbath, so we got our Christian Sabbath. But they were absolutely Sabbath keepers. We showed that in this series as well. Absolutely, they were Sabbath keepers. And even up to the time when I was a kid, back in the 80s, or back in the 70s really, back in the 70s, I think it ended maybe early 80s, was when it began to be lifted, but the blue laws were strict enough at that time that almost everything, all retail, was closed on Sunday. And it's because of this idea that they had that it wasn't okay to work on Sunday. Well, where did they get that? It's Sabbath keeping. They were trying to keep the Sabbath the best they knew how. The best they knew how. And in this country, back in the 1800s, in this country, we fined and even jailed people for breaking the Sabbath, for doing business on the quote Christian Sabbath. But it was still Sabbath keeping. So this doctrine of, oh, we don't keep the Sabbath in the New Testament, we just rest in Jesus. Well, that's a new doctrine that's not historical, and it's a watered down perversion of the word. And so right now, I'm going to give you 3 scriptures that's absolutely going to prove that the word never changed. The word's the same today as it was at Mount Sinai. And I'm going to give you these 3 scriptures. And one I give on every video. This one right here. Psalm 89:34, my covenant I will not break, nor alter the word that has gone out of my lips. So this right here, he's saying he will not change his word. And there's a reason he won't, and there's a reason that he can't. And that's because his word is the Messiah. And when we jump over here, 1 John, and the word became flesh and pitched his tent among us, or dwelt among us. The word became flesh and dwelt among us. So right there, the word that he won't change, the word that he won't alter, that word became the Messiah. That word is the Messiah, because it says at the beginning of John that the word was with the mighty one, and the word was the mighty one, and this word is the Messiah. And then Hebrews 13:8, Yahshua Messiah is the same yesterday, today, and forever. So he is the word the Father says he won't alter. That word is the same yesterday, today, and forever. That word is the same today as it was at Mount Sinai. And the author of Hebrews says it more than once, says it in Hebrews chapter 4, verse 2. He says that they were preached the same gospel as was preached at Mount Sinai. The word is the Messiah. The Messiah can't change. If you change the word, you have a false Messiah. Psalm 89:34, my covenant I will not break, nor alter the word that has gone out of my lips. If you like the video, give us a thumbs up. Comment down below. Comments of opposition are welcome. Just don't say anything dumb like we're not under the law, we're under grace, because you've been taught to use that verse outside of the bounds of its intended context. Subscribe now. Smash that subscribe button and ring that bell so that you get notifications of all future videos.